You have made it to Sunday morning setup, Sonder family. Good morning. I'm Jennifer Ogilvy. I'm joining you from the Dallas, Texas area, and I'll be your on-camera facilitator this morning. And this whole weekend has been a Team Texas weekend. Many of you know that my sidekick today, Katie Gideon, now lives across the pond. But when we first became facilitators, we were the two gals that were in Texas. So we've dubbed ourselves Team Texas forever. Katie's hanging out in that chat. She'll be able to guide you along the way if there are some questions that come up for you, or she'll give you some links to support our work this morning, all that good stuff. So, we want to remind you to make sure your chat is set to everyone. That's how we will communicate. This is a mics off, cameras off event. You are welcome to take what you need, mute as you need. You can turn on closed captioning. I tend to talk a little fast sometimes, so you're welcome to try to see what closed captioning does with my deep East Texas accent. And yeah, just it's about taking what you need. So you made it. Almost. September's almost almost over. And I love how we are transitioning from the theme of bravery into resilience, right? We did some deep work this past month. I saw lots of you in the chat were just like, ooh, September was rough. And that is what is so wonderful about our journals is we get like these fresh pages, and just that imagery of opening up our fresh start each and every month, whether the month before was great or whether it was tough, it just does something to our psyche when we see, oh, we have a new start, a new day. So that is one of the magical parts of Silk and Sonder. All righty. So, you guys are saying good morning. It's so good to see familiar names. This is a great community. There's the guidelines that we always remind you of when we hang out together because we do create these spaces that are good for us and for one another. So, if you'll just briefly glance over those, many of you are returning. I'm seeing, we know each other's names. If there's anybody here for the first time, just say me. We would love to just give you a welcome. We are the accountability buddies, and it helps us stay true to what we want from these journals and those goals and things that we set up. We know that we're all waiting for each other for these, so we are just glad to see you. Thank you, Zoom user. Also, if you're watching this on off of our YouTube channel, welcome. The chat is not never included in the recordings, but this social as well as over 1,000 others have been recorded. And Katie will be sharing that link, and you can always go back and re-watch, or maybe you sit with me this morning, but Katie did the setup yesterday and you want to go see what Katie's take was. So we've got those recordings. So welcome to you if you are dialing in from YouTube. I do want to shout out, we have a very unique exclusive this month in October. A little housekeeping here. Make sure that you are aware of this. We've been promoting it for a couple of weeks now. We're going to talk about some deep work. We're going to be looking at exploring our childhood wounds and looking at how that drives us, how that can shape us. And that's going to be on October 23rd. So later in the month. Now, if you are very interested in this, there is a nominal fee. It's like $10. But know that if you sign up for this, it will, and you can't make it, you will get the exclusive link to the recording. And something else that's really cool is it will go into the vault. And so if you are on our personal coaching app, the Life Map, we have this new feature called the Vault, and you will be able to access this recording there as part of your membership to that. So there's all that housekeeping stuff and new theme. resilience. And I found, we all love a good graphic, right? And this one's pretty good. Keep going, my girl. You could be so close and not even know it. And when you think about sometimes you feel like you're just not going to make it. You have survived all the hard days so far, but you can't see past those clouds that are looming above, and you may already be so much closer than you realize. So I love that we're going to hang out with this theme this month and sort of think about what that looks like. How are we resilient, and how can we celebrate the resilience we've seen in the past and use that to continue to be our best selves? So I've got little quotes everywhere. So be sure you kind of take a look at those. I think they'll get our heads in the right mindset for this. We're going to start off this morning with that mind map, and this is going to be week 1 of 4. So I know that y'all are going to want to set up your pages. So we will have 4 questions. And then at the very end, that very last week of this month, we have a bonus mind map that you're going to love. And then we're going to do our rosebud thorn reflection and get on with our weekly setup. So we are going to encourage you, and I'll show you what I did with my page. Find where you want to set up your mind map. If you are here for the first time, let me stop talking real quick. Look at what Katie just dropped. If you're in the Tennessee area, you're going to be traveling in November, or you live close, Bailey is going to be doing an in-person event. We had one in Dallas several months ago, and oh my gosh, we had such a lovely time. But Katie put that in the chat. I forgot to mention that. Now back to the mind map. So this is a bonus prompt. As you know, if you've been here before, this is not in your journal. This is kind of your bonus for coming to this. And by the way, I'm loving the support that I'm seeing in the chat. Y'all are amazing to each other. Thank you for being there for each other. So we're going to be looking at that quiet yet powerful strength that is within us, that resilience. We kind of started tapping into that through bravery. So we often think of resilience as the ability to bounce back. I kind of have that mindset personally, but it really is more than that. It's kind of that inner anchor, keeps you steady in the storm, wisdom you gain from past challenges, and then the way we light up the future for others and ourselves. So each week, we're just going to be looking at what resilience looks like as a practice, as this mindset. I gave you some tips of where you could, throw that mind map. You may go from week to week and put in your weekly scratch pad. I know our facilitator, Jennifer Krippner, likes to use her weekly scratch pad. I also gave a couple of hints. You could trace a credit card or a driver's license or cookie cutters to create your response pages. And so week 1, our question, and we have a little bit more of a reflection. So the question is, what helps me feel most grounded, steady, and strong within myself? And so our reflection is we're starting to think about returning to what centers us. So in moments of stress or uncertainty, what practices, places, or people help you feel like yourself again? I love that. And so we're going to be thinking of at least three. Now, my list is longer. Grounding anchors in your life, rituals you do, relationships, beliefs, habits that help you stay rooted. And how can you call on them more intentionally? And Katie did this setup last night, and she shared with us from therapy that her therapist guided her with the idea of having this distraction list. Create this list that will take your mind off of, it doesn't dismiss what's going on, but it helps you recenter. So perhaps the idea of a distraction list. And so, really, what happens is we are trying to stimulate our vagus nerve when we are trying to tap into our resilience to stress and to tough stuff. And so I found that this graphic, but you could Google, ways to engage my vagus nerve, because that's actually what we do when we have these distractions or these techniques or these grounding ideas that we do. Now, I did my resilience mind map. That's a can lid that I keep in my desk to trace, because those circles are the perfect size. But they look like they're red circles. They're my red bouncy balls because I like the idea of, how can I bounce out of that dreadful feeling into being a resilient person. So I'm going to be writing in my red balls this month. Okay, so for me, I started thinking about what I do, and I take yoga, a restorative yoga class from an older gal, and she's amazing, and she gives us all kinds of things. So between the things I've learned from Silk and Sonder and her, my go-tos are the five senses mindset, grounding technique, where you sit and you just stop and you do five things you can see. It's a countdown. Four things you can feel, three things you can hear, two things you can smell, one thing you can taste. We did this a couple of months ago, that actual practice at a coloring social. I do different breathing practices. So, kind of depending if I need to calm down, if I'm going to sleep at night. So, it may be a box breathing exercise. It could be something where I do the shorter inhale and longer exhale. Like that's a good nighttime one for me. Humming and singing, great ways to stimulate your vagus nerve, to kind of tap into that resilient self. And if you hold your ears kind of closed and hum, that can really calm you down. And my yoga teacher taught me that one, and I do that one at night if I'm having trouble going to sleep. And then another thing I put was dirt. And what that means is getting out into my garden and digging and weeding, and that just really will calm me down, as well as moving my body. And I said fast or slow, and it kind of depends on what I need. So if I'm feeling a little frustrated with my roommate, I may go for a very fast, brisk walk. But also, if I may be just having a really tough day, I do better by maybe pulling out my yoga mat, laying down, doing slow stretches, deep breathing, but moving my body in various ways. Yes, bare feet on the dirt, Lauren, for sure, for sure. That grounding where there's all these electrical pulses in our body, and when we are bare feet to the ground, lots of good things can happen. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm giving you a little extra time to work on this prompt so you have time to set up your mind map, because I know this is week one. And yeah, let us share in the chat the things that come up for you, because you may inspire someone to build this distraction list for themselves. And then we'll get going with our setup after this. Okay, since yesterday and doing my mind map, I actually started making myself a distractions list, and I'm going to post it like in my closet or something, just as my my reminder. And y'all had some great ideas. So I was sitting here writing as well as participating, and I realized a couple other things like a good brain dump. And we actually have that page in our journal this month, and it's going to be part of a social later this month. And so a good brain dump is good where you just write. So that was good. And then I thought about when if I can declutter like some surfaces, I think that that's like that symbolism of like getting some calm. So figuratively and actually doing that. So, y'all had some great ideas. So things keep popping up because once we start these popcorn questions, right? Oh yeah, and I do this. Keep dropping those in the chat. That was great. That was great. So now we're going to do our rosebud thorn reflection. This is where we say goodbye to September by turning to page 50 in that journal. If you are new and you don't have September's journal, you're welcome to just find a scratch piece of paper or maybe do this on your weekly scratch pad. But generally speaking, we do this at the end of a week to kind of do this look back. It's somewhat an exercise in gratitude where we claim those thorns, we realize that they were part of our life and maybe look to see if there are learnings from those tougher times. We celebrate our buds, the things that are coming down the pipe. And sometimes it's hard if you are trying to be resilient in the midst of a tough situation to see buds, but they can be as simple as, today's a new day, right? Or we have a new journal this month. And then, of course, what went well? What are you celebrating? What are those things that you are so grateful happened this past week? Those are our roses. So, my thorn, my challenge is just my husband's overall health and lack of energy. And we're trying to figure out what's going on with that. And it's just, medicine. It just takes a long time to get the right appointments and the elimination. And it's not this, it could be this, that sort of thing. But it's just been a little bit of a challenge. As y'all know, he had a couple of new knees put in this year and he just hasn't sprung back. And then the bud is we did finally get an appointment made that hopefully will give us a little another look see into what might could be happening. And then my rose was my youngest grandson, the one who just turned 3, had a a closed school day because they're redoing the parking lot. So we got him Thursday night. He had to spend the night, and we got to hang out with him Friday, and it was just fun, man. When you can hang out with little ones, I miss that part of working. So, and then I am president of my philanthropic group this year, and so the the meetings always get me. We had a good meeting, so anyway, I'm celebrating that. So we will put on a little bit of music while you share and work on your rosebud thorns. And if you need some support from this group, just some good juju, throw that in the chat. You've already seen Courtney share something that was really hard for her, and y'all came through with your beautiful thoughts. So feel free to do that. Drop where you need more support, and you'll get some Sonder love your way. Hey, you guys. Yeah, there's some tough stuff out there. Lauren, we're glad you shared with us. Let us be with you, right? You've got this community, and this is going to be a really a good place for you to gather. We will send you lots of love and lots of good thoughts. So when you're having rough days, let us know. Be yourself. We always say you can come as you are to these groups. So no, it's okay to not be your best self and lean on us. So thank you for sharing that and for being vulnerable with that. Um, but we'll be here. So keep coming. So we are going to now set up our journals, and many of you are probably like me, and you're ready to just jump into that new journal, that new beginning, that new start. So if you are, we're going to be on pages 26 and 27 in October. But if you're like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and do part of September, I'm going to finish up this week, then you're going to find 52 and 53 in your September journal. Maybe you're going to split the week and do a genuine hard restart on the first. And so you'll finish. But yeah, I think for most of us, September's over. Y'all, if it doesn't end, this 90-degree weather is making me crazy. It's supposed to be fall even here in Texas. Um, you are always invited to use this journal as it is, right? Just as it is. But we have lots of ideas for you to repurpose spaces to make it work for you. So this is not an exhaustive list. This is just lots of things that we've seen on both of these pages, how people have used some of these spaces. I shared last night, I've got to get my my rhythms and routines going again. I always they just I go really great and then I slide off. And I think being a retired educator, it's just really hard to not have the bells ringing throughout my day to know what I'm supposed to do next. And so I struggle with routines. So anyway, so some of my spaces this week are definitely going to be all about rhythms and routines and kind of shore those back up and maybe a fresh start for a new season. Here are a couple of examples from y'all. And, sometimes you're going to see new examples, sometimes you're going to see old examples. This is an example of both. So, the one over there on the right, I just pulled from Sonder Club, and I just loved how spooky it looked and moody and very fall-ish. So you can see they've used some tape to make those pages look great. They were wanting to be brave and enchanted, which I loved, combining those last two themes that we had. You can see the weekly to-dos are just kind of set up in a fun list. The one on the left, there's just a little note to self, that little reminder. And I thought I wanted to bring that back because as we look at being resilient, sometimes we need to talk to ourselves in very beautiful, gentle ways. And this is a way you could incorporate this somewhere in your setup. Just a little note to yourself to remind you of how amazing you are. The goals there's a priority. It's work, home, and joyfulness. I think this might have been during that theme of joy, but they did a more or less for each category, and then they've coded it with the letters. So W for work, H for home, J for joy. And then if you drop down to their habits and activities, they are supporting those things in their goals with their habits and activities. So, and you can see they've color coded it. Finish one task. That was for work. W. H, clean the big spaces. J for joy, say no to one thing. And then had some numbers set to try to have that go. Like clean the big spaces 3 times, take mindful mini breaks 5 times. But you can do like the one on the right and not set certain numbers. Yes, all the purple hearts for Lauren, for sure, for sure. So let's start by thinking about how we want to feel this week. What is that feeling for you? And drop that in the chat for me. I've actually written serenity in my book. because I've been so off kilter. I do have an Al-Anon book, and it's a recovery book with readings in it, and that I've really been leaning into that, and I thought that serenity, that's what I'm seeking right now. So I see acceptance. That's a great word, April. There's some things that really aligns with resilience. Confident, joyful. We're going to bring that back a little bit stronger every week, right, Courtney? To feel free, amplify the positive energy. These can be one words. It's Savannah. I have alcoholism in my family, and it's for members of it's just the Al-Anon daily book, and it's just a daily read. I think if you Google it, it's a blue book. It's a little blue book, but it really does help you center. And I always say we're kind of all in recovery, right? And so it really helps me grab onto that. Grounded, coming in with resilience. Maybe you'll just use resilience as your word, or maybe your word of the year comes into play here ever. You don't change it from week to week. Centered. Kind of think about what is coming ahead for you and claim that. Now, some people will do a feeling for every day of the week. Or if you have a big day, maybe on Wednesday, I need to feel determined because I have a big presentation at work, and then the rest of the week I'm going to be carefree. So you can swap that. All righty. And my word cloud, you can go, Jennifer, you can see the little thing right there. It says word it out. And it's a great way to go. You can put a bunch of words in, it'll create your word cloud for you. So yeah, the internet is amazing. So now we're going to look at those three major goals, like how are we going to get there? Let's look at those goals. And just a reminder, you're not a before and after. You don't need to prove you've made it to some other side. You can be just you right now. So remember that. Again, those three goals, these are some ways of perhaps looking at those goals. Maybe you're going to look into one of your goals this week is to create this distraction list so that you can be resilient in tougher times. I'll go back through all of these while we are working on this first page, but I want to point you right now at week 1 to look at page 8. And what are the things that you've said you wanted to start, stop, and continue? Those can be the best, the very, very best compass points to set up your goals, those things. Because when I first started doing my journal, I worked on that page, those intentions, and I start, stop, and continue, and then I'd forget to incorporate them. But now's a really good time to go take a peek at that. And then we ask ourselves, how will our goals support the way we want to feel? And so you can see here's some examples how people have set these two little sections up. And then I've been sharing, Maya brought to our attention a technique used in education, the mustard, ketchup, mayo, and pickle idea. It's the condiments, and it's the things you must do, the things you need to catch up on, the things you may get to it, give yourself permission. It's almost like a mini example of the Eisenhower matrix. And then maybe some things you can pick from. So I got mine set up over there in the upper right. And so I've got my must-dos. I've got a couple things they have to be done this week. I didn't get some things done last week that I want to catch up on, so I'm doing that. And then the things I may do, they're not pressing. They may end up being moved to must do next week. And then a couple of things I'm going to do to settle my soul, which is read, and work in the garden, and I'm going to pick one of those things. So I did that. I did my goals by doing that, but that could also be a great way to set up your to-do list. My to-do list is actually a to-do list. We can repurpose this space if you don't want to do goals. So there's a couple great examples. Those rhythms and routines plugged into this. I normally, when I'm off my rhythms and routines, will use the goals and the shopping list for AM and PM. But I may do my shopping list kind of like the graphic in the middle there with the AM and PM squeezed in there. So Anyway, and then we'll look at those to-dos, right? Nothing that's worth anything is easy. Now I keep a big to-do list with all lots of things on there as it comes in my head. It's again, it's almost like a brain dump list. And somebody had asked last week at Monday Setup about this repositional glue stick, and this one's an old one, but this is how you can make your very own post-it notes. So this is just like a regular glue stick, but the glue doesn't like cure immediate for it doesn't cure it. It puts like a post-it note sticky on the back. So I wanted to bring that up. Katie dropped the link to the Amazon for that, and it looks I've had this forever. They last a long time. But this is a way I can keep this big list and move it from journal to journal to journal. And it's a great way to move other things from journal to journal to journal. Like maybe, if you're doing a distractions list, maybe this gets your repositional glue stick and it goes in your front cover, and then you move it from month to month. So I love this product. It's great. It's great. And it's a great way to stay on top of like that master list, right? So you don't forget. So anyway, yeah, I love my repositional glue. So there's the Eisenhower matrix. We always shout this out for those big O to-do lists. If you've got a crazy week, plug your stuff in here and maybe it will help you determine the most important and urgent things and get rid of the not urgent things that can be delayed, things that, you can perhaps do at another time, put it in a catch up sort of list. So this is and it is from President Eisenhower. This is how he used to get his days going. And there's been some adaptations. James Covey has a matrix very similar. So this is just a really good way to sort things out when your head is huge. Another thing, when you're accomplishing those to-dos, maybe do it with the Pomodoro technique is where you're doing the time, a timer, and you're working beat the clock frame of mind is very motivating to get those to-dos done. And then this little graphic on the left there, you, you make an ambitious to-do list. Like that's me. I'm a to-do person. But what you want to do is really try to whittle it down and be as succinct as possible, maybe by assigning times for it to happen, working with a Pomodoro method, plugging it into an Eisenhower matrix. Get that thing sorted so that you can be successful. Here's ways that the Sonder family has set this space up for their to-dos. Not a right way or a wrong way. It's really what works for you. You could do your to-dos for work, for home, for whatever. I love we love a good graphic. Katie and I are always talking about these fun graphics, and we've liked enough things that the algorithm gets reconfigured in your Instagram when you land on these happy things. So this is a great thing. This is this resilient. If you're feeling, here's some more things that you could plug in, leaning into that mind map this week to be resilient. Love this graphic. Do you want to be the dough and cover it up and rest? Um, and then we drop down to the bottom of the page with our habits and activities. We've got that habit tracker at the front of our journal. This time of the month, I always say those are the things you want to do most parts of the month. And then we've got our weekly habit and activity tracker, which can reflect your actual week. So these things could be changed, but you could have the same things in both trackers if that's helpful for you to make sure you get things done. James Clear, who is the guru of habits, he writes that book, Atomic Habits, has some great points to make about habits. Always start small. That's the best thing you can do. He says, if you want to do 50 push-up a day, 50 push-ups every day, start with 5 or 10 and get that locked in and start creating these habits. And then we've got different ways to set this tracker up. You can set goals, but you don't have to. You can gamify those goals that you set, like the one you see on the bottom, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But you can also just plain track and total at the end of the week. The one up at the top, you see they are checking in with their journal in the morning and in the evening, and they are using that as a point of, checking in and marking off. Um, the same thing over there on the both of those on the right, the upper one, Silk and Sonder trackers. Every day they want to check in with those trackers. The one below that, they want to journal. They're making sure they're checking in with their stop, start, and continue box 4 times in the week. Keeping it front of mind, doing their gratitude page, listening to the daily ritual. So lots of great ideas there. And then the example you see on the left, the major goals, one of them was to build systems. And then they put that system down in their habit and activity tracker. So I thought that was a great idea. The one in the very upper middle, they're just, they're doing 3 things. That's that permission, that reminder to, you don't have to put all the things there. And then we've got some habit ideas if you're looking for some new habits. Let me put on some music while you work on this page. I hope you've been working while I've been talking, and I'll go back through all these slides one more time. If you saw something that resonated, grab a screenshot, but also remember this is being recorded, so you can also go back and take another look if you need to. All right. While you're finishing up this page, we're going to jump over to our second part of our setup, the B side, as Katie lovingly calls it, that flip side of the record. Here's a couple of examples from y'all of how it's set up. The weather box there on the example on the left just made me smile. What a pretty little place to put that. Sort of using that meal plan for the appointments this week, what's coming up. The one on the right is a little more detailed. They are doing little mini poems in their meal plan. It says Poems of My Life. They're going to track their water going for 80 ounces every day. Their shopping list, they have something for home, and then they're doing something else over on the right there. But look at the bottom, they're gonna do make little dice. um so I think they're gonna roll the dice, and if they get like a 2, they're gonna journal and read. If they get a 6, they're gonna have a zen moment. I thought that was kind of fun, using that idea. And then what sets your soul on fire today? That's in the I am loving box. And so just a little mini reflection there. So really utilized those spaces. A lot of bang for your buck there. Yeah, I love that little dice game, like rewarding yourself with that. It's a fun way to do that. So again, some fun icon stuff to look at. We love this October self-care and the things you have in autumn. Now, this page is a good one to incorporate things like challenges, like something you want to do every week. Here's a couple of examples. Hopefully we're going to be getting into cozy weather, that hygge mindset. So perhaps you do a hygge challenge. Daily intentions, perhaps a 1 week of gratitude, maybe doing some alliteration there, with setting up any of these spaces, right? So they're very interchangeable. So the meal plan, you can of course use it for your meal plan or a food tracker or a leftover tracker. Lots of people use it for different things. We love the juicy spots here, right? These big rectangles. So I'm sure that might be one of the most repurposed spaces in our weekly setup. You can see here chore list, to-do list, a creativity challenge on the daily. Perhaps you embrace the season and do a doodle a day or go on a scavenger hunt, just to sort of, embrace the season, do that mindset, be resilient, do a little shift. And then the mind body health plan, same thing. A lot of you like to aim for that dose idea where you are focusing on ways to get some hits of dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin and endorphins. And so you may be very mindful with putting things in one of these spaces, maybe mind body health, maybe the shopping list, to make sure that happens every day. We also love the how do I feel? What do I need? Check in, and that can be done on the regular morning, noon, night, whenever you need that. Anyhow, let's see. We've got some more ways of taking good care of ourselves. I always say this is kind of my selfish space, the mind, body, health, and I always do something that's just good for my soul. The one in the upper right there, it is mind, body, and that is actually from that page I showed you. It's blown up so you can kind of see that a little bit better. Let's see here. And then we've got the shopping list. Love the shopping list because it's a grid. It's easy to make like those bingos or those lists. And the one in the upper right is also again from that first page I showed you. And there's a little more close up of the little dice rolling that they're going to do something for you. Love that just that little bitty moment. And you can see they're all very simple things. So something fun could be giving yourself permission to do some mindless scrolling or go watch a funny episode of something on TV. It doesn't have to be big. It can be very small. And then a few weeks ago, I talked about the HALT method, which is that moment of stopping when you have like lots of feels and doing a self-check and making sure that you are not hungry, that if you are angry, you are going to recenter yourself. Asking yourself, am I lonely? What can I do to remedy that? Reach out to someone, send a text, call somebody. Or am I tired? So, when those four things have been addressed, when you're not hungry, when you have calmed anger feelings, when you have connected with someone, and when you are well rested, then we end up being a better version of ourselves. And this is a great technique to use, especially as we're starting to think about what does resilience look like in my life. And HALT is actually from the world of recovery, but man, would it benefit us all if we just made sure all of those things were taken care of every day. And so that was an example that someone posted that they used to remind themselves of doing that self check-in. And then finally, we're going to ask you, what are you loving? Write that in the chat. Put that, is there a new recipe you tried? Are you watching something new, reading something new, discovered a new artist? Are there people in your life that are making you feel especially wonderful? Share that in the chat while we work on this page. I'll go back through all of these a little bit slower so you can take a look and maybe grab an idea for your journal, and then we'll close out our time. All right, Sonder family, you did a good job. I did run and get my little my little book. It's One Day at a Time in Al-Anon, and recovery programs. Like I said, I think we're all in recovery from just life. So a daily reading can really help center, and you can just replace whatever it is with whatever's going on. So sometimes, these really speak to me, and I take away the idea of thinking of the alcoholic person and thinking of maybe stress and replacing that word with the stress in my life or the problem that I'm having, and it really helps me recenter. So again, One Day at a Time in Al-Anon. It's a great little support book. And then finally, I want to invite you to share that. Oh, I haven't read her new book yet. Chrissy, thanks for dropping that in. Yes, Brene Brown. She's so amazing. So her book, Strong Ground. I love it. I love it. I love it. And the book that's going crazy right now, Mel's book, Let Them Theory. There's a lot of recovery stuff in there too. So yeah, good stuff. Okay, so share your setup in Sonder Club. And if you have Instagram, put it on your Instagram account and tag us. And Silk and Sonder may grab that and you may see that there. And then, of course, we always shout out to the personalized coaching app, the life map. And remember, we're going to have that vault available with lots of good stuff there. And there's our playlist today, and I'll drop that Spotify link. My resilience playlist is long, so if y'all want to follow me on Spotify, I'll drop that link in the chat as we exit. Y'all, it's going to be a good week. Katie and I'll be back this evening for another monthly setup, so maybe we'll see you there. It's the Katie Jennifer weekend. But thank you so much for coming today and being part of this great group and the support that y'all gave each other. Oh, love y'all. Have a good Sunday.
I really hope I can do it, because they're all depending on me. I know that I must leave the only home I've ever known and brave the dangers of the forest, saving them before they're eaten. I mean, how hard can that be? Looking up at a sunny sky, so shiny and blue, and there's a butterfly. Well, isn't that a super fantastic sign? It's gonna be a fantastic day. Such marvelousness, it's gonna